Hello, my beautiful bookish friends, and welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing my May and June wrap up, and I am editing the video right now, and I just realized that one of the clips got deleted somehow or corrupted or something happened. So I'm going to pop in and tell you what it is right now. It is my wrap up of Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which is the first book I read in May. Some of it's in there, but I will just go over real quick what got deleted. This is the second book by Talia Hibbert in the Brown Sisters series. This is about Danny Brown, who is a bisexual professor at a university, and it is the love story of how she and the security guard in her building at this university fall in love because they start this kind of fake dating thing through because there's like a viral moment that happens where he's carrying her out of the building even though it was only a fire drill situation. So it goes viral, and to promote his charity, because he's an ex-famous rugby player, he ends up starting this fake dating scheme with her to get the foundation off the ground. But there is like real feelings there between them that neither of them know about. So it's like this, we obviously get along and flirt with each other thing, but we're gonna fake date, and then obviously it turns into real dating, and then someone screws up, and yeah, you get it. It's a romance. So yeah, that is the synopsis of that one. Overall, this book got 4 stars from me just because some of the atmosphere I didn't really feel. I mean, I guess it wasn't really important to the story, but I didn't feel like I was taken anywhere specific in this book. And also, some of the logic sometimes just didn't click like to a 10. Like, it would be like an 8 for me. So some of it just seemed, obviously it's a romance, so it's like, oh, of course that would happen, because why wouldn't it? So that is the only qualms I had with it, but overall, good book. The next one I have is Vote Harley, which is a graphic novel comic Harley Quinn, as usual, because I love Harley Quinn. This is the 5th volume in the DC Rebirth series, and Harley is running for mayor of New York to get the corrupt mayor out. Now, there's a lot that goes on in this one. It wraps up probably, I would say, 5 or 6 plot points from the other ones, and it went really well. I mean, obviously it has Harley in it, so there's a lot of rep in it. We see a lot more of her and Poison Ivy's relationship and how that goes, but we see her have a serious relationship with somebody else who is not the Joker. I don't think any of these have her being with the Joker. It's all like post-Joker relationship. But there's so much talked about like with family dynamics, which kind of follows from the 4th one as well. These are just so well written, and I think and there's so much found family in here as well as like actual blood related family, but it just kind of gives you so much of a broader scope about the character of Harley and who she is and why she's the way she is and why we all love her as our kind of anti-hero who's slowly becoming more of a hero. Overall, this was 4 stars for me, just because some of the writing at times got a little bit confusing because there were so many plot points kind of being finished up. But overall, awesome. And I should mention too, both of these books are written by authors of color. Well, this one's written by a bunch of people, but there are 2 authors in here that are people of color. And then obviously Talia Hibbert is also a person of color. And then I read The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I listened to this one on audiobook. The other 2 I read physically, which were the first 2 books I've read physically in a really long time. However, I loved this book. This was so good. It was one of my most anticipated reads from last year, and I didn't end up getting to it, but it is amazing. So if you haven't heard about this book, you probably haven't been on BookTube long, because people were talking about it all last spring. This is about a wedding that takes place on an island in off the coast of Ireland. It's very remote. All that's out there is a big family home and a graveyard for that family. So the owner of this island has trying to turn it into a wedding venue. She has this kind of, I think she would be considered like an influencer, having her wedding out there. It's going to be big press. It's going to get them a lot of awesome exposure, but we find out within the first 20 pages that someone's dead. Who is it? A waitress who is serving the reception finds a body, and then we go back in time from there. So it does have dual timelines. It goes like back to when people start arriving, or like the day before they arrive, and then when people start arriving, and there's lots of viewpoints in here, because we have the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and a bridesmaids, and they all have good motives, and they're all terrible people. Although I don't know, the little sister who is the bridesmaid isn't as bad. She's been through some stuff, and you kind of understand. I will say there's some trigger warnings in here, especially when it comes to her parts, but she Lucy Foley wrote a great book, and I listened to it on Libby. You can get on the wait list for it, but it was awesome because there's so many Irish names and words in here that it would have taken me a really long time to kind of sift through them. Now, I know a lot of them, like I know AIOFE is Aoife instead of Aoife, which is what it looks like, because it's a Gaelic name. So I knew that one, but there's a lot of like locations and stuff that they talk about. However, it was super fun to listen to. It was very moody and spooky, and I will definitely read this again and probably tab it up because it was that good. But it was awesome, and the end, I kind of called the twist at the end, but I did not expect it to be for the reasons why it happened, if that makes sense. So really good, loved it, will read again, 5 stars. June, I am doing Reading My Rainbow for June. So for Pride Month, obviously. So I picked books that fit every color of the pride flag, including the trans flag. So the first one I read was Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, which is a graphic novel, and this was my green book. And this book obviously has rep in it. A lot of people have there's a conversation about this book, and I completely understand why. This is a love story. It's a male-male love story between obviously 2 boys, but it's written by a straight woman. So how can she understand the complexity and depth of gay issues? I totally get it. I understand why it's a conversation. While I think this was written well and very fluffy, I'm interested to see how the other ones measure up. But this was a webcomic first, so, and I think you can kind of tell by what it leaves you off with and the way some of the characters are kind of portrayed in here that it was written almost, I don't want to say fan fiction because that's not, it's way better than that. But you can just tell it was a different format first. However, I love the art style. Like literally everything in here is green. And I think that's kind of a theme throughout the books. I want to get the other volumes for sure. But anyway, this is just about Nick and Charlie. And Charlie knows he's gay. He's out. He has, intimate moments with another boy that you see. And then that goes awry. And then Nick is a rugby player who thinks he's straight. But then we see as he and Charlie get closer and start hanging out more, they kind of go away from platonic and more into romantic. And Nick is kind of struggling with that because he's never felt this way about a boy before. He's always only liked girls, but now he might like a boy. Like, what does that mean? And there's some lesbian representation in here too, just like one of the side characters. And then, it just takes on, I think, a lot of, if you're kind of questioning who you are and some of those battles, how you might pull away from people during that time. So, yes, this was very good, and I believe I gave it a 5 out of 5. It's either a 4 out of 5 stars, but either way, very good. Then I read my pink book, and that was The Prince and the Dressmaker, and this not only was adorable, but took on so many more issues than I even realized. So this is about a dressmaker who ends up getting hired by this very elusive royal person. They don't want to show their face to them, but then inadvertently she finds out is the prince of the kingdom, and he wants her to make him dresses, and she is totally cool with it. She's very accepting. She goes, okay, I'll make you dresses, because he doesn't feel comfortable in prince clothes. So he basically enters like a ball, like a drag ball, and wins and goes out in drag and kind of just experiments with gender. And there's a whole part in here where he kind of explains that when he is, I don't remember what her name is, like Lady Crystalline or something like that. It's a very like fun name like that. Or maybe it's Clementine. I don't remember. But yeah, it's like Crystalline. You see how he kind of learns that maybe when he is Lady Crystalline, he feels more like himself, but doesn't want to be Crystalline all the time. So it's that very, they never express what pronouns they use, so I'm just using he because that's what they use in the book. And then obviously she when she's Lady Crystalline. But yeah, I think it just kind of shows like how gender is a spectrum and people can explore it in different ways, and drag is a great way to do that. So this was 5 out of 5, and I wish there was a second volume, but this is a standalone. And finally, so far for the month of June, I just finished Spoiler Alert, which took me a really long time to get through, and honestly was a slight letdown for me, and I only gave it 3 stars, and I'll tell you why. So this is a story about a girl who is a geologist, and I'm sorry, I should say woman because she's like 36. And she self-declares herself fat, and she decides that she is going to change jobs, and in changing jobs, she's going to be open about the fact that she likes to do cosplay and write fan fiction and just be completely open about her life and not hide it anymore. And in doing so, we learn that she has a friendship with a fan fiction writer who is a male, and it turns out being the main character of her favorite show that she writes fan fiction about. So he's also writing fan fiction because he is upset with the way the scripts of the show work. So in doing that, they create a really close friendship, and then she posts a picture on Twitter that goes viral, and he kind of comes to her defense against the trolls, asks her out on a date, he figures out who she is, and then they start dating, and he has to hide that he is the person she's been talking to all along, and it goes from there. Now, this book does address like parents talking about their child's weight. It talks about the main character is dyslexic, and his parents being really unaccepting of that and making him feel like a failure. So it had really nice moments that were very like real, but at times it was really info dumpy. I would say like the first 50 pages, I was just being inundated with all this information about either one of them, and it was a lot. And then there's certain sections where we see DMs between them from when they became friends. We read pieces of fan fiction from both of them. There's like a page in between the chapters. There's certain parts of scripts that are written. So there was a lot that was taking me away from the love story, and I would read it and then we'd kind of go back in and be like, okay, I have to reorient myself in to the love story. And I feel like if that stuff hadn't been in there, or was maybe in the back, or was kind of at the start of everything, maybe I would have cared more. But I just wanted to get to the point where it was like, okay, when's she gonna find out? How's she gonna find out? And the way she found out, I feel like was really anticlimactic, because it really was like a slip-up thing. But even so, kind of seeing her thought process, and why can I not think of her name? April. Her name's April. We kind of are in her head through part of it because it's a dual POV. When we're in her part and she's kind of, thinking like, oh, he lied to me and did these things. She turns around her opinions like way too quickly. And I understand she's like, oh, I made a snap decision and I should have like heard him out more, which happens a couple times. But, and I understand some of it, because she's like, she doesn't let him like finish saying things, even when she knows that he's dyslexic, and sometimes speaking without a script for him is very hard. So I don't know, it was just like, oh, she's so understanding and so patient with him, until it comes to him talking about something with her, and then she's like mad about it automatically. So I gave it a 3. It was okay, and the romance just didn't pull me in, and maybe it's because I'm not somebody who watched Game of Thrones or ever cares to, and that's kind of what this was like based around, like a show like that. So yeah, I gave it a 3, which was kind of disappointing. But now I'm reading The Lovely War, which was on my TBR last month, but it was ready for me to listen to. So yeah, I'm gonna have more books very soon, but for now, that's all I have. Okay, so I am popping back in for the second section of my wrap-up, because I have 3 more books that I finished. So these are all in June as well, just to put that out there, and 2 of them were not on my TBR at all, but I ended up reading just because the occasion arose. So the first one is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I don't know why I didn't put this as my yellow book on my TBR in general, but it ends up fulfilling that role and kind of let me have more flexibility with some of my other books that I might not get to this month. But anyway, this is all about a bank robbery turned into a hostage situation, but not in the way that you might think, because automatically you might think this is a thriller crime drama, and it's not. It is a contemporary fiction. There are like 8 or 9 characters in this book, and we learn a lot about each and every one of them. I have never read Frederick Bachman's writing before, but now I understand why everyone is obsessed with this, because literally in less than 350 pages, I learned about all these characters and what makes them different, and fell like, not in love, but into like this weird connection with each one of them. Like they were intertwined in ways they had never known before, and we kind of see how that happened, and switching point of views, but there's like police interviews, so they go by really quick. I personally listened to this one on audiobook, and I think it's probably one of the best ways to enjoy it, because you get the different voices of people. However, I did give this a 5 out of 5. It was done really well, and I am putting this as one of my most surprising reads of 2021. The next one is a historical fiction, and that is The Lovely War, which I also listened to on audiobook. Obviously, this book is pink, so I already read a pink book, but this can be classified as it as well. I listened to this on audiobook as well, and it was awesome. It was super duper good, and it is such a different take on a war / love story, because I think we've all read a lot of books about like World War II, where there's like this lost love kind of thing. This one's about World War I, and it's told from the point of view of the Greek gods. So you hear from Ares, Aphrodite, Apollo, and Hades, and it's really interesting how they do it. They're telling the story while World War II is going on, because Aphrodite is like on trial, so you have to go back. Like, she's telling the story from back in time of 2 couples. So first we meet Hazel and James, who are kind of like our main central characters. They meet right before James has to go off to war, and they end up falling in love. They're 18, they're young. Hazel ends up enlisting with the Red Cross so she can help. And we just kind of see what happens. There's a little bit of drama in here, and like kind of really predictable drama, and maybe that's not why I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. I mean, it's a solid 3 stars, which for me is not a bad review. Like 2.5 and below is bad for me, but this was probably about 3.5. Cawpile doesn't do like 0.5, so I would say 3.5. I'm very neutral on this book. I do wish we had heard more about Aubrey and Colette's story, and if there was like another book about them, I think it'd be cool. But given the situations, I think historically it was done really super well, and there's a historical note in the back talking about how, you know, parts of the story are fictional, but the people who are in it are not. Well, some of them aren't, some of them are. But yeah, I liked this book. It was okay. But yeah, I may read it again and feel differently about it. I forgot to mention with the Frederick Bachman book, there is LGBT representation in here. There is a lesbian couple in this book that you hear about. And the last book in this little section, I literally just finished like 2 seconds ago, is Watch Your Whisker Stilton. Again, I'm trying to read through all the Geronimo Stilton books. This was number 17, and this is going to fulfill my blue book requirement. So I have just, this one was really good. It was about them trying to save the paper, and it's a kid's book, so it's just really kind of easy, cozy sort of read for me. And I just give these a 3, just being neutral, because I don't think as an adult I can rate a kid's book accurately. So yeah, this one was kind of fun. It touches back onto some of the other books that are in this earlier in the series. And if you've read them all, then you can kind of play along with what they do in this book. So yeah, 3 stars. So yeah, I don't rate those ones. But as of now, with those 3 being done, I have read a teal book, a pink book. I am currently reading my red book. Haven't read orange, but I've read yellow, green, and blue. So I've done pretty well so far. Purple will probably be after red, maybe. I'm not sure. Those are the books I still have left to go back there. There's just 3 plus the one I'm already reading. So we'll see in a second where I'm at. All right, editing me here again. So that's going to be it for this wrap up, mainly because that's all I've read. I did start the Honey Don't list. I'm just over 40 pages in, but there's no way I'm going to be able to finish it before the end of June, because it's the 29th right now, and I have to work tonight and tomorrow night. So I'm not going to really have a whole lot of time to read. I will keep reading it. I'll finish it up, but July 1st, I'm jumping right into starting my fantasy reads and my spooky reads for Summerween, which is coming up. I will have my TBR for that coming out like right away, right when Summerween starts. I'll have a reading vlog for that as well. So yeah, that is it for me this month. It was a really good month to pull me out of that slump from May. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.